And welcome, Schmoes, to the Joe Schmo Sports Podcast with the big guy, Scott Farrar, coming at you back in the lab again. We got another episode of the podcast. Please check us out right now. We're going live out on YouTube at our YouTube page, Joe Schmo Sports. We're also on Instagram and Twitter at Schmo Sports. You can check out the podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Zune. What else? We're on Spotify. We're on a lot of podcasting networks, so please rate, subscribe, give us some feedback, 5 stars, please, if you like us. Also, we have a Facebook group, Joe Schmo Sports, on Facebook. Please be a part of that. We want to try and drum up some good questions on that. Also, if you would like to email us, we have a website, joeschmosportspod@gmail.com. We get emails a little bit slower than we used to, but we want the ideas and the questions to keep coming. So please check us out on all social media. Thanks for listening. So we're gonna get right into it. The last episode was my live draft from my Side Bet City Friends Fantasy League. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, that was recorded on YouTube. Video was a little crazy. We're at Buffalo Wild Wings drafting, so it was all right. It was all right. I hope next time I can kind of, give you guys a better understanding of what was going on. But it's you live and learn. So actually, what we're going to do is we're going to get right into the NFL. Big trade on Saturday. Khalil Mack gets traded to the Bears, and it's Khalil Mack and a second in 2020 and a conditional round pick in 2020 to the Bears. The Bears traded away their first round pick in this upcoming draft, next year's draft, and a sixth in this year's draft. Did the Bears get Khalil Mack for a good price? I'd say so. I don't think Khalil Mack's going to make a big difference going into the season with their defense. It's late in the year as far as getting a mesh going, so the first couple games I think are going to be rough. He doesn't know the playbook, he doesn't know the calls. He's probably just going to go out there and ball, which he's good at doing. I think that everybody's overestimating his ability a little bit. I don't think that he's the savior of the Bears. I think the Bears are a long-term project, and they're on the right track. Trubisky, they got receivers out there now. And obviously they're looking to stack their defense, which has been a focal point. They needed to have a better defense in the league. And I hear a lot of people talking smack about John Gruden and things he's been saying. And first it was his decision, he was in on it. Then it wasn't. It was the higher ups, and it was a conglomeration of decisions. And regardless if it was his decision or not, I think that he felt that Khalil Mack, for what he was getting, wasn't worth the price, and that happens. I mean, I don't understand why people want to complain. If you don't like the price, ask for a trade. Sit out like Le'Veon Bell's doing. You have options. They're not good options. Le'Veon Bell still hasn't reported yet. But Khalil Mack had an option. He asked for a trade. They found a trade. They got rid of him. He went to a place that is hopefully going to give him the contract he wants. And that's that. It's pretty simple. I don't see anything crazy going on with that, other than dropping Martavius Bryant, for John Gruden dropping Martavius Bryant. But again, that's another guy who apparently wasn't putting in the effort they wanted. So cut his ass. I mean, it's that simple. You got the guy. He's not doing what you wanted. He's by all accounts he's just kind of walking through everything, so cut him. I don't think there's a big to do about it. I've also did a little research. We're going into the season next week. Thursday is the first game, and right now, based on everything that's going on in the preseason, the way the teams have played, I just did a little quick the Joe Schmo Power Top 5 NFL teams. So we're going to go obviously worst to first. So number 5, coming in at number 5, the Philadelphia Eagles, defending Super Bowl champs. Their offense is a little off kilter. Wentz is still not cleared to play. It's unknown when he will be cleared. Nick Foles, since he got hit in that first, I think it was the first or second preseason game, messed up his shoulder a little bit. He hasn't been playing the same. Now, that could be, many things. That could be the coach telling him not to do too much. That could be the trainers not telling him to do too much. He's not going to do too much. Why put it all on the line for preseason games? So I could see that. Maybe he's just holding back a little bit, and when we get into the season, he'll let it go. The Eagles are also missing Alshon Jeffrey for at least, I think, the first 3 games of the season. So, right there, a big part of their offense that they had is kind of up in the air. Although now, I do believe that their run game is going to be a lot better with J.J. in the backfield, having a full, season and a half now to come in and learn the playbook. He did pretty well considering he was traded mid-year last year, didn't know the playbook. He just kind of came in. They simplified some stuff for him. J.J. seems like a smart player, so I think the simplification was more just so he can ease into it quicker to get him reps. And then now, with a full playbook and a complement of other people, I think the optimism is high on the offense if everybody comes back. Defense is still a good defense. As they say, defense wins championships. So that's why I would still keep the Eagles in the top 5. Because, Wentz could be cleared tomorrow and be playing on Sunday. Foles could just be holding it back. And when Alshon comes in, they got their number 1 wideout back. So, I don't think it's as crazy as people think. Number 4 is the Patriots. 2 people, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. Listen, they're most likely will repeat as the AFC champion and the AFC opponent in the Super Bowl. So, there's not much to say. It's very simple equation. Belichick picks up guys that Tom Brady can make look good. Those guys produce. They win the division. They get a bye. They kick butt in the playoffs, and then they make it to the Super Bowl, and they see what happens. It's a recipe that's been working for a long time now, and definitely don't see that changing. Number 3, I have New Orleans Saints. I'm putting it down right now. The big guy thinks that the Saints might have the highest scoring offense coming into this season. I know Drew Brees did not have as many touchdowns as he would like last year. I think that they fed Kamara and Ingram a lot, and that kind of took the pressure off of Drew Brees. I think this year they're going to get a little more. They're going to let it out a little bit. They're going to let it fly a little bit. Even though Ingram is suspended for the first few games. Obviously Drew Brees is still there. Alvin Kamara is going to be getting the workload in the backfield. And now, they do have Michael Thomas, and he is a legit number 1 wideout. As you can see in the preseason games and the practice footage, him and Drew Brees have a connection. Drew Brees likes to throw to him. And considering that this could be the highest scoring offense this could be the highest scoring offense in the league this season, Michael Thomas could be a top 5 guy, no questions asked. But he's definitely a legit number 1 wideout. Number 2, we got the LA Rams. The Defensive Player of the Year, Aaron Donald, finally signed. So, one of the best fronts in the business. The band's back together again. They also added 2 cornerbacks, veteran cornerbacks to the team this year, Akeem Talib and Marcus Peters. I think that's something that they wanted to solidify. They want to be a win-now team. And those guys still got a couple years left, and they can kind of groom the younger guys and the younger guys can get experience under these guys. It was 2 good pickups. They did not spend a lot of money for them. It wasn't that much cap space. They really took their time to find the guys, figure out who they wanted, and pick them up. So the defense obviously is amazing in LA. It's pretty much it's the whole team in LA is pretty much a dream team. They added Brandon Cooks on the offense this year. I'm unsure of him. He's been on too many teams in too many years. What does that say about his locker room presence? Why do they keep moving around and moving around and moving around? Maybe being on the Rams. I know Gurley's outspoken. Goff seems to be an outspoken QB. So maybe they can settle him down. Obviously, a stacked defense. Deserve to be number 2. I think the NFC is going to have such a big contender. They're going to have so many contenders fighting for those playoff spots. It's going to be crazy in that conference. And then number 1, I hate to say it as a Green Bay fan, but my number 1 power team in the NFL right now is the Minnesota Vikings. Pretty much they added Kirk Cousins to an already stacked team. So what do you get? You get a Super Bowl contender. As long as Cousins can still throw it deep but protect the ball at the same time, which he seems capable of doing. He did it in Washington. He didn't make too many, risky moves. He made just enough risky moves to win you a game, and that's pretty much what you want out of him as a quarterback. He doesn't have to be Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. He just has to be himself and protect the ball. And the defense just needs to ball out and keep up that purple people eater attitude. They definitely have the best D line in the whole game right now. I'd say while the Rams have the best defense as a team, Minnesota has the best defensive lineman in the business. And also, you get Dalvin Cook back. You get a whole year of Dalvin Cook. I mean, we know what we could do in little splashes we saw of him last year. He's coming off an injury, but you know what? I think that it's going to be more. They're going to workhorse him more than people think. I know people are talking about timeshare up there, but I don't think it's going to happen. So just to go back, so number 5 is the Eagles. Number 4 is the Pats. Number 3 is the Saints. Number 2 is the Rams. Number 1 is the Vikings. And again, it's kind of stacked with NFC teams, and you can call me a homer because I'm a Green Bay guy. But I just think that the NFC conference has stacked teams this year. I think that the Patriots are obviously going into the season look like they can repeat. They look like they could be the clear-cut winner of the AFC. So, I don't see anybody close to them really. But yeah, so those are my top 5. That's the Joe Schmo Power Top 5 NFL teams before the season. I want to roll into a little college football. It was the first weekend in college football. And really I want to talk about Michigan and the Michigan-Notre Dame game and Jim Harbaugh. And, of course, me being a Michigan fan, it was tough to watch. A lot of the same stuff I've seen since Harbaugh took over. And I've been a Harbaugh fan forever. I'm not one of those people that likes to fire people off the bat. Unless a coach does something egregious or, the overall record is such that you're so bad that you really can't compete. I don't really like to fire people. So I think people jumping on the fire Jim Harbaugh wagon are just going a little crazy. I do think he made a lot of mistakes in the game. I think his first mistake was starting Shea Patterson at quarterback. I mean, the kid looked like a deer in headlights, and the kid's played in big games. He was running around all over the field for Ole Miss. He was in the SEC. It's not like this shouldn't be new to him. But he looked scared, so I don't know if it was just a complete breakdown in the offensive line, which it could be. But from all the things I've heard, it's the offensive line is what improved the most. And if that's the biggest improvement, man, they're in trouble. Tactically speaking, I think Harbaugh never knows when to play the hot hand, and obviously Shea Patterson didn't have the hot hand. And when Dylan McCaffrey came in, he led them down the field. He led them for a touchdown. Now you get the ball back with a chance to tie the game up with 2 minutes left, and you put Shea Patterson back in, who didn't do anything all game. You had a quarterback that came in and balled out and got you into the end zone once late in the game to keep you in it. And you don't stick with him in the next series. Like it's crazy to me. And look what happened. Patterson fumbles and Notre Dame recovers, and that's the ball game. And I'm all about giving a guy who worked for it a fair shake, and I'm all about giving the starter the benefit of the doubt. But at that point, the starter had not gotten it done for 3.5 quarters. What more evidence do you need that Shea Patterson couldn't win you this game tonight or that night in that place? Sometimes in this game loyalty goes too far, and I never really say that. But I think Harbaugh's loyalty to Patterson went a little too far. The third string, Dylan McCaffrey is actually the third string. He balled out. He got him back. He got the team going. The defense came up with a big stop after that because you know what? That's what they needed. They needed long drives. And, you can talk shit about the Michigan defense. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. They had an ejection call early in the game. I'm sick and tired of fighting those, any contact to the head could be an ejection. So, this is the third or fourth year we're doing this rule now. It's gotten to the point where it's a little ridiculous, but that's the rule. So it was an ejection. One of their safeties, starting safeties, is now out. Okay, next man up. Then Devin Bush, the middle linebacker, gets hurt. All right, next man up. And you know what? Notre Dame only scored 24 points on them, and they scored their first touchdown real quick. You can call that first game jitters. The Michigan defense had some good stops. It's just one of those things. Michigan had a first tough game. Usually they get to play a powder puff in the first game and play Notre Dame in the second. That's not what the NCAA wanted. That's not what the Big Ten wanted. They wanted the lights and the cameras. And sometimes I think you got to rethink it, especially since you're trying to start out with a new quarterback that's unproven in the Big Ten and unproven in Michigan. And I think the money, that big dollar sign, that cha-ching that went off in the heads of the people over there in Michigan to have this big game first outweighed the fact that they might lose the game. So now Michigan has to hope that they win the Big Ten, and Notre Dame looks really good. Because to be honest, if Notre Dame is their only loss, let's say Michigan wins the Big Ten, and Notre Dame goes on and loses maybe one game, maybe they lose to USC. But other than that, they go undefeated. Michigan does still have a shot at the playoff. Is it a slim shot? Heck yeah, it's a slim shot. But a shot's a shot at this point. Come on. But I'm not on the Jim, again, to repeat, I'm not on the fire Jim Harbaugh bandwagon. I'm disappointed in the product he put out, and that's on him. Also, there's been some controversy with Braylon Edwards, former Michigan wide receiver, former Jets wide receiver, coming out and calling out individual players and then calling the team trash. And, I think it's kind of distasteful for a guy who works for the Big Ten Network to really go after an individual player when he shouldn't be. They are still kids, It's not hard to say, everybody wants to say, when the person makes a mistake and they play college football, well, he's just a kid. Well, exactly. You're calling out a kid on social media that is not, is not considered an adult yet sometimes, and I think that it's not right for him to do it. I know that right away. Khalid Hill, the former Michigan player, he's on the Seahawks. He tweeted back to Braylon Edwards. So the Braylon Edwards tweet was this: Ruiz is weak, line is weak, Shea is scared. Fucking Michigan offense is so predictable. Michigan football is sadly one thing: trash. Now Cesar Ruiz is a guy that they brought in on the line. Again, you're really shouting out one individual lineman. The line, I tell it to my kids that I coach, the line's a unit. If one guy lets up a sack, you all let up a sack. If one guy false starts, you all false start. And Braylon Edwards should know that. But you know what? He's been a douche most of his career, so maybe he doesn't. Anyway, Khalid Hill responds to him. It sickens me that you went to U of M and you got the nerve to throw up a tweet like this. When they turn it around, which they will, don't be the one trying to say you knew they would from the jump. I don't give a fuck what you did at Michigan. Those guys don't deserve that. Neither does the team. And good for Khalid Hill to stand up to the guy and say, screw you. You don't have the right to say that about those kids. And, and these are players that Khalid Hill played with. So it's not like, he has just been there. So, I think to come out and really throw it down like that is cool. And then apparently, in more news with Braylon Edwards, he was suspended from the Big Ten Network for the comments. And I think, I don't know. I think the way he went about it, again, using the language he used, calling out specific people, it was it is what it is. And then and then Braylon Edwards responded after getting suspended. He said, so funny that everyone is worried about my tweet as opposed to the real issue. 0-17 on the road against ranked opponents, 1-6 against rivals, and 1 win against a 3-9 MSU team. Last thing I will ask and really want to know before you get mad, is Michigan better than Iowa? And again, I'm not saying you got to come in and be Michigan this and Michigan that and da-da-da-da-da. But to call out the individual players, I don't think that's right. Like, to do it like that, the way you did it, you can say, Cesar Ruiz, obviously not up to the task right now in this game. Same thing with Shea Patterson. But, like, it just, the way he went about it was kind of, with this vitriol, and then he had the nerve to delete it. Like, you want to talk trash about the tweet. You want to talk trash about the team, you're going to tweet it, and then you get suspended for the tweet, and then you deleted it. So, like, and then he wants to come and say everybody's worried about my tweet as opposed to the real issue. But if you stood by your tweet, you wouldn't have deleted it, man. That's the other thing. Like, stand up and take it like a man if that's going to be your tweet. Because that's what you were thinking, and you wanted to put out that thought. So why delete it? There's nothing, There's really, again, nothing to say. Do I think he should be suspended? No. Do I think he should have got a little, talking to about, the way he went about calling kids out? Yes. But that's what Big Ten wanted to do. So there's nothing you can do. So again, Michigan is in shambles right now. They're playing Western Michigan next week. So we're going to see what's going on. See if Shea Patterson can right the ship. If he can't, then it's time to go to a backup. That's about it. So as we spoke about in the top of the show, last episode was my my live draft with my side bed city buddies. It's a 10-team standard scoring. What happens is we have 1 starting quarterback, 2 starting running backs, 2 starting wideouts, 1 flex, which is a running back, wide receiver, tight end, 1 tight end, 1 team defense, special teams, 1 kicker, 6 bench spots. There's no IR spots in this league. And then the winner of the league the previous year gets to hold on to the belt, gets to engrave the belt. It's a nice belt. And also gets to choose how we decide the draft order for the next season. So this has been going on for a little while. So some of them were like, all right, pick them out of a hat. Then one year it was the lottery system, kind of like the NBA. So the guy who came in last gets his name 10 times in the hat, and then you pick it out. Then stuff floated around. Like, I know one guy wanted to play a $200 buy-in card game. We nixed that really quickly. 1, because nobody wanted to spend an extra two bills, and 2, because it would take so long to do the damn poker tournament. You want to do it before the draft. Generally, we draft on a weeknight because that's when we can all get together, and we all have to go back to our jobs the next morning. So that was out. So we did a beer pong shooting one year. We put numbers in the bottom of the cups. We mixed up the cups. You threw a ball. You hit the cup. The number you got was the number you picked. Then we did a tournament one year of how many cups you can get in 2 minutes of shooting. But this year, Rico, the current champion, decided we were all going to take the Wonderlic test, and he found a 6-minute, 25-question Wonderlic test online, it's scored out of 50 points. It's based on how many you got correct, how many you got wrong, and the time it takes to do it. So we did the Wonderlic test, and the big guy, I'm going to gloat a little, got first place. I got a 32 out of 50 on the Wonderlic. Then it went the next closest guy to me. A couple guys tied with 20, 18. A couple guys got 16. One guy got 14. Whatever. So instead of just saying I got the first pick, it was however the order shakes out, you get to pick what pick you want. The guys who tied, they played a little Rochambeau to figure out who got the pick. So it was fun to see. You guys will probably hear about it on the last podcast. Anyway, so I chose the second pick. I didn't want to be the first pick. I wanted to see who the person in front of me was going to take, and then let the chips fall as they may. I think this year your best bet is to be on the turn. I think that in a 10-team league, rounds 6 through 8 are kind of like danger zone areas. Definitely, if you fall into those picking points in a 10-round draft, it's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough. So my draft was as follows. My first pick, the number 2 pick, was Todd Gurley. Obviously, I'm going to pick a stud running back in a standard scoring league. And then generally my strategy is best player available. I also like to go quarterback late, so I was trying to go quarterback late this time. But that actually didn't happen. So I take my second pick. I have to wait all the way to the end of the second. So I get Michael Thomas, the Saints wideout. I'm high on him. Like I said previously in the Joe Schmo Sports Power 5. I think he's a legit number 1. I think he could be a top 5 receiver. And then on the wraparound, I wanted to go and get another running back. Joe Mixon was there. I know he could be more of a PPR guy, and the Bengals' offensive line is a little shaken, but he was the best running back available. So then it was another long wait. I get to the end of the 4th round, and sitting right in front of me is Larry Fitz. Couldn't pass him up. Another one. I wanted another one. Another number 1 wideout. Again, this isn't a PPR, but I think it's going to be the Larry Fitz show this season. He does score touchdowns. And then on the wraparound, I said, I really need to get some depth at running back. So I'm going to go running back. Lamar Miller was there. I think Deshaun Watson being back opens up Lamar Miller. I think quarterbacks, I think defenses will back up out of the box a little bit with Deshaun Watson there, or even if they're not out of the box, maybe they're putting a spy on Deshaun Watson, and that's one less guy that's going to be looking at Lamar Miller. And then here's where I said my quarterback strategy kind of went awry. By the time I got to the end of the 6th, again, we're in a standard scoring, so the wide receiver depth is there, but not like it would be in PPR, where you can pick up a guy and say, oh, well, his touchdown production might not be there, but his reception points will get me something. So I had Russell Wilson sitting there. I believe Russell Wilson's going to do something this year. He's going to run a little bit more, I think, with the guys that he has out there. I think Chris Carson in the run game opens up the read option game for them, which is something Russell Wilson has been successful at in college and in the NFL. So I decided to kind of drop that. And the best player available was Wilson, so I took him. And then on the wraparound, again, I wanted more running back depth because wide receiver is so deep. So I picked up Rex Burkhead. I think he's going to be the number 1 for the Pats. I think he'll get the goal line carries. So even if he's off maybe first down, he'll vulture those goal line carries away from whoever the starter became. Then we go to the bottom of the 8th. I pick up Corey Davis. Again, Corey Davis fell. He's the number 1 wideout for the Titans. How do you not pick him up in that spot in the 8th round? That would have been the 78th or 88th pick. And then coming back around, since I picked up Rex Burkhead, I decided to go after Sony Michel. I think I got in the 9th round picking up Sony Michel. Yeah, I know he's injured, but if there's one guy that's going to take away the reps from Rex Burkhead, it's going to be Sony Michel. I just feel that he's the guy I need to take as far as like a handcuff and a flyer. I think he fit really well there. And then we wrap around back to the 10th, and I had another number 1 wide receiver in my face. Alshon Jeffrey. I know he's injured. I know he's missing the first couple games, but we're talking about the 10th round here. We're talking about the 108th pick, 109th pick. So you're telling me I got Michael Thomas, Larry Fitz, Corey Davis, a number 1, a number 1, a number 1, and then if Alshon comes back in Game 4, I'm going to assume he's still the number 1 guy. I mean, he was the number 1 guy all last year. So to take a flyer on him in the 10th round, I don't think was as bad as a strategy as I could have done. There was a lot of running backs there that I really didn't need because I went running back early. There was a lot of wide receivers that I felt didn't have the value there. So I felt, all right, I can sit for 3 or 4 games and deal with them because I have the other guys. And then on the flip, I saw Emmanuel Sanders again. He was a value guy I picked up. He probably should have went in the 8th or 9th round. Again, non-PPR. He doesn't get the touchdowns that Thomas does. But watching the preseason games, Case Keenum likes to throw to Emmanuel Sanders, and that's just what stuck out in my head. Like, if he's a safety valve guy and is just going to keep getting plays, getting touches and throws on plays that might be garbage, shoot, 11th round, I'll take that. At this point, I had already picked up all my starters. Pretty much after I picked up Wilson, I had all my starters set except for tight end. So I came around to see who was there, and Jack Doyle was sitting in front of me. And in a 10-team league, maybe he's not a pickup, but we had a couple tight ends go early. We had people take 2 tight ends already. I'm more of a fan of find a value guy, and if he stinks, stream for the rest of the season. But I think Doyle is a safety valve for Luck. I think Luck, when he doesn't go deep, looks for Doyle. He loves Doyle. And like I said, if he doesn't work out, I can always stream. There's a couple good tight ends I could pick up. And then in the 3rd round, that left me, or 13th round, that left me with a choice. I decided to get another running back. I picked up Ronald Jones II. He's the backup in Tampa, but by all accounts, it looks like he's going to get the starting role at some point. So it's good to stash him as a late round flyer. Then I went Broncos defense. Again, if the defense doesn't work out, you can stream. And then I picked the kicker out of New Orleans, Lutz. And like I said in the Power 5, New Orleans kicker is going to most likely be on the highest scoring team in the NFL. So why not get me those points? So I'm just going to read through some of the draft analysis here. I put some stuff in the Fantasy Pros draft analysis, and what it does is it takes like a composite average draft position from CBS, Yahoo, Roto Sports, MyFantasyLeague.com, Fantasy Tracks, Fantasy Football Calculator, and it takes this one composite out of all those things and gives you an average ADP. And then gives you a couple things like, did you reach for a guy? Did you really reach for a guy according to what the ADP said? Did you get some value? So looking at my team, I didn't reach for anybody according to the composite ADP. My value picks, which I got at least 1 round after they were supposed to go. Russell Wilson at the 69th position, Corey Davis at the 89th position, and Sony Michel at the 92nd position. And then people who they really consider steals, which is 2 or more rounds. Alshon Jeffrey, Emmanuel Sanders, and Roger Jones. Again, I got Alshon Jeffrey at 109, got Emmanuel Sanders at 11-12, and I got Ronald Jones at 13-2. So, according to Fantasy Pros, I did well as far as my drafting. According to Fantasy Pros, my strongest position is running back. According to them, I have, one of the best running backs in the league, paired with my second running back, who's top 5 according to their system. So, that's really good. According to them, my bench is very good. I'm surprised that they say I'm so weak at wide receiver, but, I think they're just low on Michael Thomas, and I don't think they realize the volume that Larry Fitz is going to get. And then obviously my tight end, of course, because I picked up Doyle, and he's the only one, is considered my weakest position. But, it is what it is. So if we're going to go through the draft board real quick, a couple things that stuck out to me was a buddy of ours, wasn't able to make the draft, unfortunately. So apparently his brother was drafting for him, and he just had some weird pickups there. He went with Antonio Brown first, and that was the the 7th pick in the first round. And you can argue that that's a good pick. Again, Antonio Brown, non PPR, that's in that range that I was talking about before. That 6 to 8 range where you don't want to be. He's right in the smack in the middle of it. But, you know, with Kareem Hunt and Leonard Fournette there and Melvin Gordon there, it's a little tough not to take him. A little tough not to take one of those guys as opposed to Antonio Brown. But, again, I don't think the brothers ever picked in this league. So maybe that's just one of those things. So he went Antonio Brown. He went on the wraparound. Let's see who came off the board. So after he picked up Antonio Brown, Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon, DeAndre Hopkins, Dalvin Cook, Devontae Freeman. Now Christian McCaffrey's sitting out there, and you know, according to all the hype, he's going to get 300 touches or something magical. He picks Rob Gronkowski in the second. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Gronk is not a top 16 pick in a 10-team league that is non-PPR. If you're in a 14-team league, if you're in a 16-team league, pick him up as soon as you can, because I feel in those leagues you want to have a top-tier guy and try and get a top-tier guy in as many positions as you can. So maybe you go early for Gronk and you go early for a quarterback in those. But we're in a 10-team league. There's a lot of room for improvement. There's a lot of guys that are going to hit on the waiver wire. There's people that are going to get injured. So going for Gronk that early was a little crazy. And then it wrapped around back to me, and Julio Jones, Odell, and Keenan Allen had gone, so that's why I figured I'd pick up Michael Thomas. After my Michael Thomas pick, my buddy Carmine picked up LaShawn McCoy and Devontae Adams, which led me to Joe Mixon. So again, if you go back through, now we're back in the third round, and the same kid picks up Tom Brady in the third round when Aaron Rodgers was on the board. I mean, you know, come on. It's a little crazy. And then when he wraps back around, so now he has a wide receiver, a tight end, and a quarterback in a non-PPR league. He doesn't have anybody at running back. And remember, after his second pick, they still had Christian McCaffrey, LaShawn McCoy, Joe Mixon, Jordan Howard, and before he was injured, Jerick McKinnon. You pick, you know, so like, was Gronk really a good idea there? Probably not. So now you really need a running back, and maybe the value wasn't there in the third round because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, because 16 running backs had gone. So he picks up Tom Brady, but again, I would have picked up Aaron Rodgers at that point. Then it goes receivers. I pick up Larry Fitz, then Adam Thielen, then Travis Kelce goes. More receivers. Then he goes to pick up a running back, and he picks up Royce Freeman. Now, at the time, Royce Freeman had not been officially named a starter. Lamar Miller was on the board. He's going to be the starter there. I don't know why you wouldn't pick up him. Alex Collins out of Baltimore, starter for now. You know, even Marshawn Lynch maybe, because you haven't picked up a running back and you know they're gonna work him into the ground. Derrick Henry was still on the board, even if it's a time split. You never know. Maybe it's not as much of a time split as you would think. So it was really weird out of one of my buddies with his brother drafting. And then, you know, I think a couple guys, you know, I don't think reaching is as bad as people think. I think that if you reach on your bench a little too much, it gets a little crazy. Like one of my buddies picked up Adrian Peterson in the 8th round. I don't know, man. Is he going to get the work? Yeah, he's going to get the work. Can he be consistent? I'm not sure. Has he hit a block because of his age? Maybe he has. Let's see. So he went to the 3rd round. So let me see who is going in the 8th round. So let me see who was still on the board. Well, let's see. So he took Adrian Peterson, and it's right after Carlos Hyde and Chris Carson went off the board. Jamal Williams was off the board. Kerryon Johnson's off. Rex Burkhead is off. You know, if Chris Carson had fell to him, I don't know if this particular guy would have taken him. But I would have taken Chris Carson over Peterson. And you still had Peyton Barber out there, and I know that I was talking trash about him before. Well, not necessarily trash, but just saying that Ronald Jones II is probably going to take his starting job from him. But, you know, if you know, you need some running back depth, it's not a bad call. You know, this particular guy, he had started with Kareem Hunt and wrapped around to Devontae Freeman. So he had pretty solid picks. You know, he's also the guy that picked up Aaron Rodgers, and maybe instead of Aaron Rodgers there, you pick up Tevin Coleman there. We also had in the fourth round, second pick in the fourth round, Deshaun Watson came off the board. Actually, he came off before Aaron Rodgers. So you had Tom Brady and Deshaun Watson go before Aaron Rodgers. And again, that's a little crazy. I think my buddies got a little too cute this year. There's nothing you could do. But I pick up Russell Wilson, and that's after somebody picked up Drew Brees beforehand, and my buddy the commish, he auto drafted Ben Roethlisberger. For some reason, he never got his pick in. He had Roethlisberger sitting in the queue just to give him a look, and picked him 57th overall. Ben Roethlisberger, everybody, 57th overall, Ben Roethlisberger. So it's kind of funny. And then, in the 59th pick, I come in, I pick up Russell Wilson. I was hoping to try and get Jimmy Graham on the wraparound, and the picks to my buddy Carmine, who had the first pick, was Allen Robinson with the 60th, and then Jimmy Graham with the 61st. So I was a little tight because I thought I could get Jimmy Graham in the 7th round with the 62nd pick, but like I said, once I didn't, I was targeting Jimmy Graham in this area. If I didn't get him, I went right to Jack Doyle at the end. I didn't think I lost anything. Overall, according to CBS, I had like the 6th worst team. Again, I don't think that's correct. I think CBS skews it a little more. I think Fantasy Pros with their aggregate. According to Fantasy Pros, my draft grade was an A+, a 98 out of 100. According to their projected standings, if it was just based on points, like a Roto League, overall, I would be ranked number 1. I have the most points out of my starters by 15 points. I have the most points out of my bench by 4 points. So putting it all together, it's a big gap. But listen, your league is not won and lost in the draft. You set yourself up to have your optimal team in the draft, and then work the waiver wire as it comes along. Our waiver wire is worst to first, so whoever has the worst record previously, then when it opens up on Wednesday, they get first dibs on the waiver wire, and then get pushed down to the last. So it is what it is. We had a great time. I recommend Buffalo Wild Wings. I love the CBS fantasy app. I love the way they do the drafts. Like I said, I think their grades are a little crazy. I definitely think my team was the best, but it is what it is. My buddy Rico, the current champ, got the kiss of death this year, and according to CBS, had the best. I think since CBS has been doing, they've opened up the what they do for the people who pay for fantasy sports. Because we pay for our league, so we can customize it a little better. They give us a weekly rundown of the league and a bunch of the games, and they talk trash for us a little bit. And then they give us this draft analysis based on their rankings. So I think their rankings are just a little bit out of whack. And to be honest, I think some of their rankings, I think they base their rankings on PPR, not standard. So, that could be, an issue. Anyway, that's all the time we have for now. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to the Joe Schmo Sports podcast. Follow us again. We're live on YouTube when we do this podcast. Check out the recordings. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Schmo Sports. Send us a DM. Like us. Follow us. Become our friend. Whatever. Check us out on Facebook. Joe Schmo Sports. This is going to be a good fantasy season. I'm excited. I got another draft tomorrow that I might podcast live a little bit. This one is an online draft, so I'll be by myself. And this is a new league I'm in, so I haven't drafted with these guys, so it's going to be, maybe a little crazy. We're going to see. PPR draft, 12-team PPR draft, ESPN league. No, Yahoo. I forget what league it is. I think it might be a Yahoo league. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to our iTunes page, subscribe to Stitcher, subscribe to Google Play, rate, review. We love hearing from you guys. Schmoes, have a good night. Thanks for listening.